Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are tuning in from. Thank you so much for dropping by my little channel. If you do like my videos, please do drop me a like and a subscribe. It would really help me out. Today, I'm going to be showing you how to make these little happy peas. Although actually, if I'm being honest, I'm going to show you how to make these. It's incredibly difficult to crochet and film in this size yarn. As you can see, they are quite different in size. So I'm going to be showing you how to make the slightly bigger ones. I will drop a link to the materials that you would need if you want to make the small ones, and I will explain it a little bit later on in the video what materials I have used. As always, there will be a link to my socials in the description box below, along with a link to Snufflebean Yarn, where I generally buy all of my yarn from. She also sells the safety eyes, and she sells googly safety eyes as well. You may notice behind me here, if you've seen my carrot video, I did mention that I spent quite some time mucking about with googly eyes, and this is the results. This is Cedric the carrot, and you can have literally hours of fun with these googly eyes. He's got like a funky little fringe, and he is slightly bigger than the carrot that I made in my video last week. But yeah, the googly eyes are well worth it for putting onto projects, and they are safety eyes as well. I actually really struggled to find any safety eyes in the googly variety anywhere before Snufflebean started stocking them. So yeah, well worth getting. So yeah, today we're going to be making these cute little pea friends. I'll be showing you how to make both of the peas and their little pod. Right, let's get to it. So to make your little pea friends, you are going to need some yarn. Now, as I mentioned, I have obviously made these little peas a lot smaller. These are made with the Colour Crafter yarn by Shapier's. It is recommends a size 4 crochet hook. So I dropped down to a 2.5 to make these particular peas. If you don't like crocheting in miniature, then you are more than welcome to make the peas as big or as small as you like, depending on the project. These particular little chaps are part of the vegetables my mother requested. She said, I made her a pumpkin a little while ago, or back last year actually, and she said he was still up on her kitchen windowsill, but he was lonely and he'd like some veg to go with him. So she requested specifically some tiny peas. So here are the tiny peas, and she wanted a carrot. So the carrot is the carrot that I showed you last week. So yes, to make these peas, you just need the Colour Crafter or any similar weight yarn, and I would recommend either a 2.5 or a 2 if you want to go that small, but a 2.5 will be fine. But today I am going to be using the good old chunky Signet in a nice sort of viney coloured green. You're going to need a crochet hook. I'm going for a 4. This recommends a 6, so the amigurumi would drop down a 2. You're going to need some scissors of whatever variety you like. You'll need a stitch marker. You will need some safety eyes. I think that's pretty much it. That should do the job. Oh, stuffing, which I don't have here, but I will go and retrieve before the time comes. You know what the stuffing looks like. You need stuffing. So to start off, you're going to want to make a magic ring. I will be making a video on how to do the magic ring, because there is also an alternative to the magic ring, because some people do not like the magic ring. However, for now, I'm going to have to assume that you may already know how to do a magic ring. But I will be looking to make some videos showing you how to do them, so I can link them when appropriate. Into your ring of magic, you need to put 6 single crochets. And just pull that tight as always. Don't pull it too tight, otherwise you might struggle to get into this first stitcheroo here. once you're in and you've done your first stitch, you can pull that closed, grab your stitch marker, which is still attached. There we go. Grab your stitch marker, mark up that first stitch so you know where he is. And then to start off, we're going to do 2 single crochets into each stitch of the round below for a total of 12 stitches. So just squash your 2 little stitch friends in there. Each stitch has a little friend for this particular round. Pretty sure I just crocheted some cat hair in there. Yep, there it is. Excellent. Right. So at the end of our first round, we have a whopping great big 12 stitches. Now, if you're like me and haven't pulled your magic ring tight shut, do that at this point and pop your first stitch into the stitch from the round below. So round 2 is another increase round. So we've got our first stitch done here. We're going to leave that stitch in there on its own, and we're going to pop 2 single crochets into the next stitch from the round below. And in the next, we're just going to put 1. So we have 1 lonely stitch, 2 little stitch friends, 1 lonely stitch, 2 little stitch friends, and just going to do that all the way round for a grand total of 18 stitches when you get to the end. Right, last lot 3, 2 and 3. Remove pet hair. I swear I do that more than anything else when I'm crocheting. Okay, so rounds 4, 5 and 6 are all going to be single crochet all the way around. There are no more increases. So we're just going to pop 1 single crochet. So we're keeping our 18 stitches all the way around. You will start to see your project will start to bow, I suppose is the right word for it. You want to make sure that your tail is on the inside. Righty ho, so I'm just coming to the end of my 3rd round of single crochet. As you can see, we now have a little pea friend forming here, although he doesn't have any eyes or anything yet, so we will rectify that shortly. Okay, so we're just going to give our little pea his face before we start to decrease. You can, if you want more room, do your first decrease round and then pop his face on, but just to make it a little bit easier, I am going to pop his face on now. Okay, so we need safety eyes. Okay, safety eyes, some backs for some safety eyes, and something that I actually forgot to mention in the in the materials section, have to maybe stick a little note over the top of it, some black yarn to embroider his mouth on, and a needle. Right, let's give him a face. He needs a face. So on these, I generally put my eyes 1, 2, 3, 4. So in this 4th round here, pop your little eye in there, and then count 1, 2, 3, and then in that 4th stitch across, pop your next eye in, just so that it gives him, I like to use the 2 and then the 1 below for the mouth. Right, let's embroider him just a little mouth. So we're going to come up through this hole here and just leave yourself a little tail in the bottom, down through the 3rd one across, and then up through this middle one here. If you can get your needle in there. I want to try and come up between these 2 legs of this stitch here, but it's not working. There we go. Up through the middle and then underneath the mouth. Now you don't have to make him smiley. You can make him sad if you want. Although I think I'd just prefer a smiley happy pea. Okay. There's an amazing song by the Red Hot Chili Peppers about a pea, if anybody remembers it. Oh, I've made him look a bit angry. He looks a bit cross. Never mind, we'll roll with it. So get rid of your needle. Wheel in the scissors. Okay, chop those off. Get rid of that. And then our little pea has a happy little face. So let's pick our hook back up and pop this back on. So we're just going to decrease 1 row, same as we increased. So 1, and then we're going to use the invisible decrease to crochet 2 together. So instead of going under both legs like you normally would and picking up your yarn, just going to go under this front leg of this stitch, and then we're going to flip the hook over and just use the end of that hook to scoop up the 2nd stitch, grab your yarn, pull it through, and then finish your single crochet. Next stitch is just a standard single crochet, and then we're going to use the same method to crochet 2 together. So under this 1st loop, just this leg, use your hook to scoop up the 2nd loop, grab your yarn and pull it through. And we've got 1 and then 2. So under the 1st, scoopy, grabby, pull through, get yourself some more yarn. And what did we just do? We did the decrease. So 1 single crochet and then our decrease, 1 single crochet and then decrease, and then in the final 3 stitches, 1 single crochet and 1 decrease. Okay, so pull that through, and now we're just going to stuff our little pea. Oh, or we're just going to get our stitch marker completely stuck in the yarn. That's also fine. Perfectly acceptable method of crochet. I don't even know what I'm doing here. Oh my God. There we go. Right. Okay. Let's bring in our stuffing. Okay, stuffing. Now, there is I always have anyway, a tendency to want to overstuff everything that I make. But these, you can't really overstuff them because otherwise they just won't fit together in their little pod. Right, just gonna get a little bit of stuffing, shove that in there. See, that's a very small amount of stuffing and he's pretty much done already. But we are just gonna get a little more because, you know, we want some fat little peas. Not skinny flat peas. We want fat peas. Big chunky boys or girls. Maybe one of each. Okay, really don't think any more of that's going to fit in there. Right, may have overstuffed. It's fine, we're going to work around it. Now, as you can see, I have slightly overstuffed this little chap. So it might make it a little bit difficult to do the last round, but we'll work with it. Just stuff the stuffing in as far as you can with your thumb and push it around so that it makes your pea sort of flat. It just makes this bit easier to crochet, and then we'll squidge him so that he is more rounded afterwards. Now her stuffing stuck to absolutely everything. Okay, so our last round is just going to be the final decrease, not to be confused with the infamous final countdown, but the final decrease where we just two together. So under the first scoop, pull through. I still mark my stitch on here, even though I know I'm doing 6 decreases. I just like to know where I am. It's easy to get lost. So under the first one, scoop through, and then another 4 of these. Ooh. Oh, I love it when the yarn splits. Okay, just going to give him another little stuff here because his inside's poking out. Okay, and what I'm just going to do is, now I know I'm on my last 2, I'm just going to get that stitch marker out of the way, and there we go. Okay, last 2 and pull through. Now what you can do here is, I just like to slip stitch so you don't get this sort of lump here. Pull the yarn through, pull yourself a little bit of tail to sew in, snippy snip, get rid of the scissors. Right, let's just pull that through. Now we can just give our little pea a squish, and he is now round. Next thing, thread your tail onto your needle and just sew in the end. So you just want to go underneath the outer edges of these stitches, or however you would normally sew them in. I am no authority on sewing whatsoever. My sewing skills are way below par and very terrible. But fortunately, with this project, this particular part of the project is hidden. You can't see it. So feel free to be as messy as you like. Now, once you've done that bit, we are not going to cut his tail off. We're going to leave it because we are going to use it to sew him to his little friend. So now you need to make 1 more of these. You could make a 3rd one if you want, but you would need to adjust the size of your pod for them. So I'm just going to make 1 more pea. So now that we've got our 2 little peas, we need to make them a little pod to sit in. Your pod starting chain needs to be roughly the length from the top of the mouth on the top pea and the bottom of the mouth on the bottom pea. They don't need to be squished together completely like this. Just lie them down next to each other, roughly where they're going to be, and you want your starting chain to be around about this size. I tend to find a chain 10 will suffice. It doesn't have to be exactly the same size, but that is a good guideline for what you need. 7, 8, whoops, 9 and 10. So as you can see, there we go. It's just a little bit bigger, but you just want it around about the same size as your peas are when they sit together. So let's get those out of the way. So once you've done your starting chain, chain 1, this counts as a stitch. And then you're going to be working into this second stitch from your hook. So not this one, not this loop on the hook, that is not a stitch. Not this one, but this one here, which is actually the 10th chain in your original starting chain. And you're just going to work 1 single crochet into that chain, and then all the way down 1 single crochet. Okay, this is the 9th chain. I'm just going to stop here for a second. In our 10th chain, you're going to be putting 2 single crochet. You're going to be mirroring what's gone on at this end. Now don't forget you did that chain 1 to start and then 1 single crochet. That counts as 2 stitches. So we're just going to pop 2 single crochet in this last chain. Now usually you would be turning your work and whipping back down the other way. We're not going to be doing that. Just pull that little dangly yarn out of the way. So we're actually going to be going round like so. So in this same stitch, but in the bottom half of the stitch, 2 more single crochet. So in this 10th stitch, you have 4 single crochet, 2 in the top part of the chain and 2 in the bottom. And now you can see we're going to be working into the bottom part of each of the chains from your original starting chain with 4 stitches at each end. So 1, 2, 3, all the way along, 6, 7, and then our 8th stitch will be our single crochet. And then into this 9th stitch, I'm going to put another 2 single crochet, 1 and 2. So you now have a little circular affair going on. Next round, into this first stitch, I'm going to put 2 single crochet. What I would do is mark the first one so that you know where it is. And then 2 single crochet in the next stitch. And then back to our single crochets down to the end. And when we get to these last 4 stitches, and when I say the 4, I mean the 2 at the top and the 2 at the side. So this one is just going to be a normal stitch. We're going to put 2 single crochets in each of these 4 stitches on the end. Again, mirroring what we've done at this end. Two and 2 in this one, and then single crochet until you have 2 stitches left along this side. And in the last 2 stitches, pop 2 single crochet in each. So you now have, let's just pull that out of the way, the beginnings of a little pod for your peas to sit in. Now this will be the outside of the pod. So if you need to check your sizing at any point, you can just bring your peas in and just check that they now sit with just 1 layer of stitches on each side. That will be enough space for them. So now we just need to single crochet all the way around until your pod is the desired size. I find that 2 rows, maybe 3 is enough for me, but if you want to make your pod slightly bigger and sort of keep your peas a bit more closed in, then you can put an extra layer in. So single crochet all the way around. So that's our first row. You can see it's starting to curl up this way now. You now have your little pea green boat. I'm going to do one more round and just see how big it is. Okay, let's have a little look and see how our pod is looking with our little peas in it. So we've got 1 and 2. I think one more round will be perfect. Think that should be just about the right size for my peas. So just give it a little road test again. There we go, that's much better. Ideal. Peas fit perfectly. So now we'll assemble this bad boy. First things first, we'll do your stitch marker. I would just recommend popping a little slip stitch in there just to neaten up that end a bit. Now you want to pull yourself through a fairly decent tail, because you're going to be using this tail to assemble your project, like me, and lose your scissors. So pull yourself a decent tail through and just pop this little pea pod to one side. First thing we're going to do is sew our peas together. So decide which pea you want to put on the top. I'm going to put this one on the top, and if you're forgetful like me and haven't actually sewn in your end, then go ahead and do that now. But hopefully you won't have been forgetful like me and you'll have already done this part. So again, this doesn't have to be too neat because this part of the pea is completely hidden and you can't see it. So I'm just going to tidy this up, tidy this away, and just sew it into the back of my pea and then chop it off. Okay, so first I'm just going to sew the two peas together. Okay, so to sew your peas together, go in through the top of the bottom pea and just come out through the bottom, and then line up their little faces like so, and just pull not too tight, and then I just go through this here and then back in the middle of this pea, hopefully come out through the top of the pea. Now this bit's a bit fiddly, you need to find the top of your pea, there he is, and then into the bottom of the top pea. Try not to lose your needle. Did lose needle doing this. Would recommend you use a sort of longer needle here. This is the really fun bit, trying to find the top of the other pea. There we go. I've got it. We're in. Excellent. Now just squid your peas down. It's a sentence I never thought I'd say. And just pull this thread through, and you've now got your peas are nice and secure together. So just sew this end in like you would any other end. They don't have to be so tight, they don't move, they can have a little bit of wiggle room in them. I just find it a little bit easier to sew the whole thing together when they are already sewn together like this. You can take a lot more time and sew them in properly, unlike me, who has just made a complete hash of this. Okay, now you can get rid of that little chap in there and then decide which way around you want your peas. I tend to put them this way around so that the sewn in bit is sort of on the bottom, and then you're literally just going to sew the peas together or sew them into their little pod. And the easiest way I've found to do this is to just go round the edges of the pod. So you want to pull this way so that it sort of lines up. If you pull it back, it tends to look a bit messy. So keep on going the same way that you have done before. go through both of these stitches and into your P, and then just come out of the P one stitch further down, or 2 stitches further down, it really doesn't matter. Pull that through. Don't pull it too tight, otherwise it tends to look a bit bobbly. You don't want this to be ridiculously tight. And then so wherever your thread has come up, just select, oh, I'll just drop everything, it's fine. Select one of these stitches and then do the same thing. So go into the next stitch and into one of the stitches on your P, and then you're going to go under that stitch and come out another stitch over like so. There we are. And then again, pick, God, that's the second time I've done that. Pick a stitch, pull it through, and then go into the next stitch and into your P and back out again. And then go all the way round. Again, you can be loads neater than I am. Now we're just getting round to the end. Oh, now we'll come out here, and instead of going back, if you're happy with how your peas look and that they're comfortable in their new little home, then just, as you normally would, tuck away your ends by going in and then coming back out somewhere along the bottom. If you go through the inside of the peas as well, that's fine, because it just secures them a little bit more. Don't pull these stitches too tight, and then just again follow the stitch along and pop it back out through there somewhere, and then we'll just do one more. Make sure it goes into that P underneath, because it's a lot easier to keep stitches in if they are in with all the stuffing. And then just pull that last stitch a little tighter before you snip it off, and then yarn that's attached here, give your peas a little squish, and there you go, 2 happy little pea friends to go with your carrots and any other vegetables that you might decide to make. So there we are. Thank you so much for watching. If you do make your own peas, whether they are smaller like these little guys, oh, there's some fairly chunky boys, those, aren't they? I didn't actually realise how much bigger they were until I put them next to each other. So if you decide to make your own peas, please do feel free to tag me in your creations. I would love to see everyone else's little pea friends, whether they're big chunky boys or even bigger chunky boys. You could use some really chunky yarn and make some massive peas if you want, or you could use the teeny tiny yarn and the teeny tiny hook and make some really little teeny peas like this. Thank you very much for tuning in. I hope to see you again soon. Bye. Okay, so to start off, we're going to detach our yarn from whatever it's attached to over on the side and start that all over again. Here we go. So you need to go away now. Well, don't go away. Please stay here. I'm not even looking at the screen. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are tuning in from. Thank you so much for dropping by my... I will drop a box in the link. This shouldn't be that hard. I'm practically meditating. It's so hard not to make myself laugh. Maybe this have my face on camera wasn't such a good idea after. Oh, and the cat's back. Can you just not? Good morning. Good morning. What is this? Is this? Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. This is not the news, so stop talking like a newsreader. Thank you so much for coming to see my cat's arse. Oh, thank you so much for dropping dropping bin. Thanks for dropping your bin in my channel.